Osama bin Laden may still be at large, but the man captured in Pakistan last Saturday was even more important than bin Laden in the planning and execution of the September 11 attacks. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was apprehended in his pajamas just before dawn in a suburban home near the Pakistani capital of Islamabad. The Americans will have many questions for him because, as we first reported last fall, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was not only the mastermind of 9/11, but America's most lethal enemy for more than a decade. Just how important he was in the campaign to bring America to its knees only started to dawn on U.S. investigators last spring. It was around that time that a reporter for the Arabic news channel Al Jazeera was summoned to Pakistan for a meeting with the men on the inside. The sweltering streets of Karachi, where last June reporter Yusri Fouda was being driven blindfolded. He'd been invited to Karachi by Al-Qaeda. That's all he knew.
I didn't have a clue who I was being led to. I didn't have a clue where I was being led.
There were several changes of cars. Then Fouda was taken up a flight of stairs and into an apartment.
Somebody started taking my blindfolds away. I opened my eyes and I realized I was only half a meter away from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, a Kuwaiti of Pakistani descent. Before he was seized last Saturday, Mohammed, shown here moments after his arrest, had only been interviewed once in his life. His meeting with Yusri Fouda was his first and almost certainly his last with a reporter.
Immediately, Khalid introduces himself as head of the military committee of Al-Qaeda.
Did that surprise you?
It did not surprise me, it stunned me. That committee actually was the arm of Al-Qaeda which decided, first of all, according to Khalid, to strike America inside America and to eventually choose the targets which were actually hit on September 11th.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had his own name for 9/11, Holy Tuesday, and Mohammed admitted that he'd come up with the idea of the attacks himself.
And developed it, planned for it, recruited for it, and executed it.
It sounds from what you're saying that bin Laden is the chairman of the board and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is the executive officer. He gets things done.
Very much so.
Therefore, he's the man.
That's right.
When Fouda's blindfold was removed, he saw that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was not the only man in the room. Sitting in the corner was Ramzi bin al-Shib, Mohammed Atta's Hamburg roommate. Unlike Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, bin al-Shib was ready to do an interview for broadcast. This is the voice of a 9/11 conspirator. Bin al-Shib told Fouda he was proud of the attacks and had no regrets whatsoever.
They take pride in the fact that it was very creative too. Ramzi himself said it bluntly, that they would like to be credited for this.
Most of the credit, as they call it, must go to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who has a decade-long history of terrorizing Americans. Intelligence sources tell us it was Mohammed who directed the first World Trade Center bombing, as well as a 1995 plot to down a dozen American airliners in the Pacific and crash a plane into the CIA headquarters. His operative in those plots was his own nephew, Ramzi Youssef. But those attacks failed for the most part, and Youssef was captured in Pakistan and put behind bars in the United States. But Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, not a trace. A master of disguises, he traveled the world unnoticed. Then in 1996, word suddenly reached the FBI that Mohammed was in the Gulf state of Qatar. The FBI acted quickly.
We sent a team of FBI agents from this country with the cooperation of the government of Qatar to bring him back.
The FBI's Neil Herman had headed the Bureau's investigation of the '93 World Trade Center bombing, and he was desperate to capture Mohammed in Qatar.
For whatever reason, it still remains a mystery. He found out that the team was en route and the rendition was unsuccessful. Unfortunately, our best opportunity was missed.
After you tried to get him in Qatar and failed, do you think he sort of slipped through the cracks?
He fell off the table. He disappeared for years, never to be heard from again until September 11th.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had escaped, but with his nephew Ramzi Youssef serving a life sentence, Mohammed needed a new blueprint and a new master terrorist, someone who could finish the job.
You need a perfectionist if you are playing with America. And I think Khalid, for these reasons, was lucky to find someone like Atta with these qualities and at the same time with a lot of black smoke inside him.
The smoke appeared in Hamburg, Germany, where Mohammed Atta was in college. He grew a beard to show solidarity with Muslim fundamentalists. He was looking for a cause. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was looking for a candidate. It was a perfect match. Atta was recruited by al-Qaeda at Hamburg's Al-Quds Mosque, hidden in this nondescript building. By November '99, Atta and two other future pilots were sent to Afghanistan to an elite al-Qaeda camp. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his lieutenants had drawn up a new plan for America, a plan he shared with our consultant, Yusri Fouda.
The first thing that jumped into their minds, according to Khalid, was striking at a couple of nuclear facilities in America. That, according to him, was later taken off the list for fear it might get out of hand.
What does that mean, get out of hand?
I did ask, what do you mean? He said, we didn't want to take much risk. He just said, we decided not to consider this for now.
For now?
For now.
Instead, the operation would strike at symbols of America's military, political, and economic power. When Atta arrived in New York in June 2000, he carried with him a report on potential targets made by reconnaissance teams Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had sent to the U.S. a year earlier.
The White House at that time was on the list, but one of the reconnaissance units went back and recommended that it should be taken out of the list for navigation reasons.
The White House was too difficult to hit. The Capitol took its place. At the top of the list, a site Khalid Sheikh Mohammed wanted to revisit with a vengeance, the Twin Towers. His new plan took elements of the '93 World Trade Center bombing and mixed them with a failed '95 operation to use American airliners as weapons.
He said that during that meeting of his committee, they decided that the goal was to cause as many deaths as possible, to direct a big slap to America on American soil in front of the world.
To deliver the slap, the terrorists learned how to fly in Florida. Now it was time to choose the hijackers, the guys who would actually take over the planes.
About 5 months before the 0 hour, the foot soldiers, or so-called muscles, were chosen.
Chosen by?
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed mainly. He said that his problem actually was the opposite. He had too many volunteers.
With more than a dozen Saudis now on the team to serve as the muscle, Atta flew to a Spanish coastal resort in mid-July. It was a short, working vacation. Atta met his old Hamburg roommate, Ramzi bin al-Shib, who had a message from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The final date for the operation was in Atta's hands. A month later, the phone rang in bin al-Shib's Hamburg apartment at 3 a.m. It was Atta calling from Florida with an important but cryptic message.
Atta goes 2 sticks, a dash, and a cake with a stick down. That was the 0 hour. 2 sticks, the number 11, a dash is a dash, and a cake with a stick down is the number 9.
The 11th of September, bin al-Shib scrambled, leaving Hamburg for Pakistan. From there, he sent a messenger into Afghanistan with news for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Tuesday, September 11, would be the day. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and bin al-Shib told Fouda they were actually disappointed by the results of 9/11. They had hoped for a much higher death toll. Ironically for bin al-Shib, the end also came on September 11. Exactly a year to the day after the 9/11 attacks, he was arrested in Karachi. His voice on the audio-taped interview with Fouda had been matched to a phone call. The arrest tightened the noose. And last Saturday morning, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed received a wake-up call. At 3:30 a.m., Pakistani agents with help from American intelligence stormed into his hiding place and caught the mastermind of 9/11. Osama bin Laden may still be at large, but al-Qaeda may never be the same.